Now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
Folks, it's time for us to take back control of our government now before this bureaucratic, oversized, and self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. To do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding our political structure. I want to repeat that, folks. That is important. It should be emblazoned in our minds. We should imprint it. We should be saying, this should be our mantra. The first thing we say every morning before we say, good morning, dear, I love you. Before you say that, you should say, we need to change our way of thinking. We need to be revolutionaries in thought. Dissidents in action. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. And folks, this program is just about that. You know, I had some tree damage done. I had a whole tree go down on me, a big one. And I have a caller on the line. Ted, hold on for a second. I just want to get this out before I forget. And, what happened is that this guy came around and he did such a fantastic job. I said, "You're such a fantastic job at such a great price. I want to give you some airtime. I'm actually going to give your name on the air." He had no card on him, and before I left, he was still out there doing some work. He says, "Oh, I put your my name and telephone number or something like that on your motorcycle." Well, I left it on the motorcycle, and but he's probably listening in. He's saying, "Well, you creep, you said you should do that." So, Ted, I apologize. I will give you airtime next week. Please, when I get home, I'll get your name, and I will do that. You did a terrific job. I want the world to know that. And here we are. And now is Ted on the line.
Ted.
Yeah. Yes. Hello, Joe. Ted King.
Okay, don't holler at me too much.
Okay, well, no. I didn't do any tree work for you. I was a guest on your show about 6 weeks ago.
Okay, Ted, good. Are you back or what?
Well, here's why I'm back.
Okay.
Governor Fallon has decided that not only are cigarettes bet on state property, but now e-cigarettes are verboten on state property.
Yes, I understand that. I heard that. That's terrific.
That's right. Yeah.
Isn't it great having Republicans run the show?
They're real freedom-loving people.
Yeah.
Freedom-loving people. Yeah. The whole thing is manipulated.
People.
Yeah.
Well, I've decided with some friends of mine to protest this.
Great.
The ban is going into effect January 1st, Wednesday, New Year's Day. So a group of my friends and people in the Oklahoma City area have gone to snuff out the ban on Facebook, and we've signed up to go to Oklahoma City at 1 o'clock, south steps of the state capitol, to defy Governor Fallon's ban.
How are you going to do that?
I'm going to smoke my pipe, which is now illegal according to state law. and other people are going to use vapor cigarettes, which really aren't illegal. You see, the governor made an executive order. It means absolutely nothing. Except a state trooper can come up and say, "Hey, move it along." But you can't be ticketed for it. You can't go to jail for it. You can't be nothing. It's an executive order. It means nothing. She wants to get the legislature to follow suit. Michael Bloomberg did this in New York City recently. Rahm Emanuel of Chicago attempted to do the same thing in Chicago and got quite a bit of blowback, pardon the pun, from the assembly.
That's great.
So Mary Fallon is in league, really, with Michael Bloomberg and Rahm Emanuel. Aren't you glad we have a Republican governor?
Yeah, very much so. Yes,
so
you convinced
anyway,
me.
I am going to call on Governor Fallon to stop burning fires in her fireplaces in the governor's mansion, because she is producing wood smoke, which has chemicals in it known to cause cancer in the state of California. And, she should be practicing what she preaches. But 1 o'clock, south steps of the state capitol, Wednesday, New Year's Day, in Oklahoma City. I'm going to be there. There'll be about 50 or more people there. come on down and smoke and vape for liberty.
All right, I like that. All right, well, do me a favor. Just send me an email. Give me that schedule and an email.
Yeah.
I may want to be there. Let's get some cameras
Give
over there.
Big
Let's
fat cigar or something.
Yeah, do me a favor, okay?
I will do it.
All right, Ted. Thanks a lot for calling. Okay,
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Right. We are under assault. Right now, I am wearing a helmet.
You are?
I'm wearing my sergeant helmet, my military helmet. Right. And my wife is giving me instructions. She says it's too far back.
Yeah, there you go. You need
there
to
it is. Okay.
tilted better. Yeah,
and because I'm wearing my army helmet because we are under assault.
It doesn't work with those headphones.
It doesn't work with the headphones.
And then this is radio. This is radio.
Let's see.
That, right?
Hold on a second.
Okay.
This is not working. You know that. This is horrible.
Well,
all right.
plus it's radio.
We're going to do it this way.
You actually,
a wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah, we have a wardrobe malfunction.
You know who you look like, Joe? You look like Beetle Bailey. No comment.
I have all the support in the world, folks. Don't kid yourself. I really do. You know, what a bunch of clowns I'm working with over here. I need some support.
None of it.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, in the second part of this program, we are going to have economist Andy Sutton call in.
Oh, good.
Yeah. That's right. You know, in my opinion, one of the most erudite, clearly spoken, and his writings are phenomenal. You know, on economic policy and financial wizardry or whatever it's going on today that he tries to explain. And he brings it down to a point where the average person who doesn't follow the market, doesn't follow economics, doesn't know Austrian economics from Keynesian economics can understand. The man is absolutely brilliant, and I'm just so pleased that he's a friend of mine. I've never met him personally, but we've known each other now for about 9 years, I think, you know, that he's been on the program from time to time. And I'm pleased that he will be here for the second part of the program, giving us a recap and a summary and maybe some projections for 2014. So don't go away. Right after the break, which will be in about 10 minutes, Andy will be on and you'll be rid of me. I know you'll be happy about that. And you'll say, get rid of that madman. You know, folks, I have the hard hat on because we really are at war, and the war is with words. And we have to be very careful when we listen what we absorb. This is an Orwellian fantasy that we are living in, and we are being fed words that have double and triple meaning, and it always winds up not being exactly what we think it is, but they're all feel-good words, everything. Understand that the markets are manipulated, the government is so incredibly corrupt. I can go into so many facets specifically, but we don't have time for that, and I don't want to do that. Quite frankly, I want you to read into it. I just want you to know that what you think or what you believe is not true. What you are led to believe, I should say, is not true. For example, just recently in the past year, books and articles have been written about the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor was no surprise. Now, there is a documentary. It's a book. It's been around for about 15 years. It's called Day of Deceit, and it just proves beyond a shadow of a doubt with government documents. I mean, all it is government documents that the government knew and wanted an attack on our mainland significant enough to draw us into the war. Now, why? Because bankers own the world, and bankers are the ones, and the military is the one that are the what do you call it?
Beneficiaries.
The beneficiaries. Well, the military carries out the orders for the bankers. I mean, understand that. And look at the world. Look at the way everything has been done. Follow the money, no matter what it is. Follow the money. And I know this sounds crackpot and conspiratorial and all that. Follow the money. You know, isn't it interesting? I'm going to throw one thing out. I want this to sink in. When Jack Kennedy defied the CIA and said they were all ready to attack Cuba, and he didn't. What he did, he said he didn't attack Cuba. He didn't give the word, to the military to attack. He went and he called Khrushchev, and he said, let's make a deal. Shortly thereafter, guess what? Kennedy was gone. You don't screw with the CIA. You don't screw with the bankers. You play ball with them. I mean, if you look at this over and over, historically, and not only in the United States, in America. I mean, look at history. It's over and over. This is no different. This is no longer a free nation. This nation does not run on the will of the people. If it was, then all the laws would be written to our benefit at the expense of our elected officials, as the Constitution mandates that it be. But it's the exact opposite. I want you to think about that. Obamacare, we get it. Congressmen, no problem. They're exempt. I mean, we can go on and on and on and on and on. They get everything. We get nothing. But what's strange, when you think about it, we pay for it. We have the billions of dollars in Utah in that big complex for the NSA. Who's paying for that? We are paying for it, so we pay them to spy on us. I mean, we should look ourselves in the mirror and say to ourselves, do I look that stupid? That's why I need plastic surgery. I must look that damn stupid. I pay them to spy on us, on me. Think about that. Yeah, I'm looking at the people here in the studio, a whole bunch of people in the studio right now, saying, hey, you too, guys.
That's right.
You're paying them so they can spy on you. Don't complain. You're paying them. You're the boss, right?
You're paying them.
Don't go away. Andy Sutton will be here. We're going to take our break now. Well, we're back. And we're also back with Andy Sutton's on the line, right? Okay, Andy Sutton's on the line.
Andy.
Yeah, Andy Sutton's on the line. He's an economist from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. A highly regarded economist, can tell us a little bit about what's going on economically and financially in this world. And I hope he's in a better frame of mind than I am. Andy, are you on the line?
Hey, Joe. Well, you have a hard hat on. I have a tinfoil hat on.
Tinfoil.
He's got one in his pocket.
Tinfoil.
Protected from the alien.
Oh,
waves.
jeez. Help us, Andy. Please, just say something to help us.
I don't know. All right, this is what we'll do.
Follow
Okay.
that.
I'll play Hank Paulson. My response to everything you say will be a strong dollar is in the national interest. How's that?
There you go. Yeah. That guy's a wizard, isn't he?
Yeah, I saw a guy wash his windshields, after the snow with a $100 bill. He said, what the hell? Well, Andy, can you give us an idea of what the heck is going on economically, and what do you think is going to happen in 2014? And so far, everything I've read sounds a little. They've been hedging on everything. I mean, I haven't heard anything good so far. It's all been, well, doesn't look that good anymore. Am I reading the wrong stuff, or is that what's happening?
Well, this is, I think, because nobody really does know, and you guys nailed it about 10 minutes ago when you said that, this whole thing is controlled by bankers manipulating markets, manipulating economies, manipulating wars, world wars, current events, whatever, to their own whim. So when you have a system like that, you can't look at statistics per se and have any degree of predictability. You can't say, well, we've seen this, we've seen this, we've seen the other thing. Well, that means this is going to happen. Well, that's not really the case anymore. People have been screaming crash and correction in the paper markets for a while, and you know what? It'll happen when these guys are ready for it to happen and when they can make the most money. And their goal is to suck in the little guy at the top
and then push them out at the bottom. And that's how they do it every time. So basically, when you hear people out on the street clamoring about their E-Trade account, and I'm not picking on E-Trade, but that's just the first one that came to mind, or whatever, and they just bought this, they bought that, they bought the other thing, they got their stocks, everybody's got stocks, they're all going to get rich, then it's really time to get out the hard hat.
Right.
Because that's when you've got yourself a good top. The Fed, that's a joke. I don't think they're even cutting QE, and I haven't heard many people say this. I think that was actually a shuck and jive. They said they were going to cut it by $10 billion. I think they actually increased it. I can't prove that yet. It's going to take a while before we're actually able to demonstrate that, if in fact that's what happened. But the second thing, and I think more importantly, is why all of a sudden is everybody taking this outfit at their word? They lie about everything. These guys lie. You know what? There could not be a cloud in the sky. It could be a perfectly sunny day, and those guys would tell you it was raining. They lie about everything.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Hey, Andy, I got a question. What's the deal? The 100 years of the Federal Reserve Charter is over. Are they quietly signing a new one? What's going on?
Well, the charter was kind of a symbolic thing. First of all, you need a Congress that wasn't bought and paid for. And why do I say that? Well, if you go to the beginning, I think it was the first paragraph, the last article I wrote, it was when Bernie Sanders called out Bernanke. This was back in 2009. And they got into it about all these pledges that the Fed was making to bail these banks out. And this is above and beyond TARP. This was the Fed working for its owners, by the way, in creating these pledges to backstop those banks. And Sanders asked him, he said, are you going to tell the American people who you lent 2.2 or whatever it was trillion of their dollars to? And Bernanke straight looked him straight in the eye and said, no, I'm not going to. So, and nothing happened. Nothing was done. They sat there. I mean, like Joe was talking about with Feinstein and the guns. They sat there. They took their medicine. They took it in the chops, and they walked away.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
you know what? When you have an outfit that's full of clowns like that, that's full of bought and paid for shills, you're not going to have. They could have had a charter with a hard expiration date, and all it would have taken was one guy to say, you know what, these guys are finished, and they would have been done, and they still wouldn't be done. That's how rigged this whole thing is, and how controlled.
So the charter is nothing; it's just symbolic.
It just sounds
they're
like
just going to run. Actually, they're running on whatever they want to do now because there's not even a charter with any rules in it. So they're just running it the way they want to run it. I mean, they've done it already, but you could have probably called them on the carpet on a few items. Now you can't call the carpet on anything.
Well, but if you did call them, big deal. So what? They'll say that's what we decided to do.
Yeah.
What are you going to do, sue them? Take their money, sue them. Sue them in court and then fine them $100,000, which you'll have to borrow from them. Oh, my goodness gracious.
Oh, that's a record.
Yeah. Well, right now, the market, the way the market looks, for those people interested in the stock market, it's awfully high. It's just reminiscent of 1999, of 1987, of 1929. I mean, it doesn't have that same curve as the same wave or whatever they call it as those times.
Let me tell you something. If this thing gets any more 1987, my hair is going to start growing back. All right? That's where we're at with this whole thing. The only difference is now you have these guys actively working over the markets. You have computers responsible for roughly 5/6 of the trades that go on a daily basis. It varies based on the day. But it's totally different now than it was then. And I am not saying that to justify that in any way. It's actually worse because of that. Nor am I saying that to push the idea that there's no reckoning day. There will be, and it'll only be worse because of all the manipulation that has gone on. And that's the biggest problem here. I think the things that people are ignoring, though, that we have a rising enemy, actually two of them. and they're linking together in many different ways, trade, currency, and that would be China and Russia. And those two are really joining at the hip. And not that they love each other, but they have a common enemy, and it's basically America. And they're flexing their muscle. I mean, you saw what happened. When was the last time the U.S., when you think about this, got told to step off in the Middle East, and we actually did it? That whole Syrian thing back in September.
That's right. You're right. Absolutely correct.
When Putin came out and said, you know what, you're not doing this, and all of a sudden it stopped.
Right.
It disappeared from the news. It dropped off the radar. Nobody said a word about it. It just went down the memory hole like it never happened.
Right.
When was the last time that happened? Not in my lifetime.
Right. Never happened. No. Never did.
That is huge. That's a huge turning point right there. And nobody talked about it.
Yeah. Well, there's a trade agreement, I understand, between Russia, China, India, Brazil, and believe it or not, South Africa. And if you take those countries, you're talking about 43% of the world's population, and they have a trade agreement in which they will trade bypassing the petrodollar. So now you have 43% of the world's population trading outside of the world's reserve currency. Am I right or am I crazy?
Yeah.
No, I'm crazy. I know that, but am I right?
At this point, we really don't have the world's reserve currency anymore.
Yeah.
We're pretending we do. That paradigm is still being pushed.
Right.
But when you look at the size of those agreements, and it's not just them, now you look at what happened with Syria, getting back to that. Every little nation that wants to buck the system with regard to the petrodollar, they now have the recipe for how to do it.
Right.
All they have to do is go to China and Russia, one of the other ones, particularly those two, though, and cut a deal and say, hey, we have this, we have that, we'll give you X percent of it, this is what we want. They come to a handshake agreement, and it's hands off because those guys are going to protect their interests. And that was what Syria proved. So every one of these countries now, we're not going to be able to just push people around anymore. That is what you're not hearing about.
Well, people don't realize that if we no longer represented the world's reserve currency, from what I understand, and I'm not an expert in this field, you are, but I understand we wouldn't be able to buy all the plastic crap from China. It'd be too expensive. How does that work?
Well, it's all based on exchange rates, and this is one of the reasons why there's been a big push to get rid of exchange rates, just because of the fact that right now you have this paper race to the bottom, and this is another reason why you have all these central banks buying gold like crazy, because they know that the paper game's almost over, and I don't know what day it's going to end. It's going to end shortly. Maybe a year, maybe 5 years, maybe 8 years. I don't know, but they know that it's reached the terminal point in the cycle. Yeah, they can play games and prop it up and do funny things with the stock markets and blow up bubbles here and blow up bubbles there and get Twitter to sell for $100 a share and all this kind of crazy stuff. But really, they've destroyed the capital base. I mean, the real capital base. They've destroyed the idea of value. People don't know what value is. So the idea that the currency would still have value is in extreme jeopardy at this point. Because if people can't ascertain what the value of something is, they're going to start questioning the unit that it's being denominated in. And that's why the Chinese and the Russians and so many of these other countries are cutting deals and not explicitly, but there's an implicit backing with gold. The Chinese have a lot of gold. The Russians have been buying a lot of gold. Obviously, South Africa mines a lot of gold.
And India also.
And India. They've got a ton of gold. Many, many tons of gold.
I understand Brazil also has some gold. I don't know how much, but they also very partial to gold as well.
Oh, yeah, everybody is, because all these banker guys, they all know that that's real money. They just don't want the average person. So they get their shills, like their Jim Cramers and their guys on CNBC, and in the morning, they laugh and make jokes, and, well, it's a barbaric relic, and, if you're buying gold, there was a popular financial talk show host. I won't mention any names. He used to be a real estate guy and got burned. He said if you were going to buy gold, you should just take the money and spend it on mental counseling because you're nuts. So this is what they do. But these same guys out of the other side of their face, they're calling their gold broker, and they're getting their coins and all that sort of thing. So these guys are all hypocrites.
Right.
They want it. Everybody knows it's money, but they don't want the average person to find out about this stuff because, again, if gold is money, then what's the dollar bill? Well, is that not money? That's the only thing that holds this whole thing up is confidence. So anything that shakes confidence has to be countered. So this is what you have to keep in mind when you pay attention or watch or listen or whatever to the mainstream financial press.
Andy,
that's their bias.
Andy, how relevant is cash itself? I mean, everything is digital. I mean, I carry around, less than $100 most of the time when I used to carry, a couple hundred. It's because I've got that card. I got that debit card. Even, I can just use that card. It's all electronic money getting shoved around. I mean, how relevant is cash?
Well, it's relevant if you get into a situation like they had over in Cyprus about 9 months ago where basically they shut the banks down for about 2 weeks and everybody was racing to the ATMs to try to get their hands on some. It's not relevant from the standpoint that it has any more value than the digital dollar that sits in your bank account. But if you look at it from a bail-in perspective or something like that, yeah, I mean, you could go out and you can get physical, so to speak, and use it that way. But, if we get to that point, I would think most people would be thinking, well, this isn't worth anything anyway. I don't care if it's a digital dollar or a paper dollar. What's the point? You give me something that's worth something, and then I'll give you something that's worth something. And that's the thinking that a lot of these other countries are starting to undertake, and they've been doing this for quite some time now. We're just not there yet. And the reason we're not there yet is because we are vastly apathetic when it comes to these things, and we're too lazy to be,
I think we're brainwashed,
bothered with even learning about it.
Yeah,
I think we're just brainwashed to think that everything's okay, everything's good.
Well, this fella from
there's some ball games on tomorrow.
Yeah, everything's
the
happy.
shopping went great. There's some sales. Hey, just keep it going. You can get a house for 4.5%. They're pushing that bubble again, trying to blow that back up. And if you're one of those people that was really beating your head against the wall after the housing debacle back there in 2008 and 2009, and you're of the mindset that you might want to get out from a mortgage that was slightly underwater, you might get a chance here because they're really pushing. They'll push any bubble they can at this point, whether it's the stock market. The only bubbles they don't want are bubbles in things like gold. They don't want the price of that to go up. When it got to $1,900, they hit the panic button. They hit the panic button, and they've been able to kind of keep it down since then. But the thing is, you can't find it. So from a supply and demand perspective, you'd be thinking to yourself, all right, hey, if this is so cheap, you would think it'd be laying in the streets. It's not worth anything. Nobody should want it.
That's right.
Why can't you get it? Why are you waiting almost 4 months to get a contract fulfilled in London? Why is it this way? It doesn't make any sense. That's because, and I told Joe, I think whenever we were on the internet 2 weeks ago or whenever that was, this is going to get worse. It's going to continue. And if things seem upside down now, wait till this time next year. They're really going to be upside down.
Well, Andy, you have a reputation, so you can't give a forecast. So you have I have no reputation to protect whatsoever. So I can say anything I want. But I really think that in 2014, we are going to see a major shakeup in the markets. And that would include there's going to be a difference in the price of gold, in precious metals, and all the metals right across the board. We're going to see some real turbulence in the dollar. We're going to see turbulence in trade. It's going to be a shakeup year 2014. That's That's my prediction. And if you're not prepared, you better start preparing, at least doing things to protect yourself. If you don't have it in your hands, if it's not in your home, you don't have it, and you may not be able to get it. I don't care if it's a can of beans to a silver dollar.
No, I agree with that. And there was one really big thing, and it's a very fundamental, basic thing that happened this past year in 2013. And it involves personal property. We went from a world where fundamentally it was not okay to take the property of another person. I mean, generally, most people think that that's wrong.
Correct.
That got turned on its head.
Right.
We saw two instances in 2013. The first one was in March in Cyprus when they got looted. Then we saw it again just a few months ago in Poland when their pension funds were looted to the tune of 50%. What's yours is not yours anymore, and we are being conditioned to accept that. That none of this stuff is yours. Yeah, you paid in all your life, all your working career into your pension. It's not yours. Guess what? It's on American shores now. It's on our soil in Michigan, in Detroit. Their pension plan, the teachers, the firefighters, the police officers, I'm not sure the rest of the civil servants, whatever they call them up there, municipal workers, what have you, they're going to get cleaned out. And they're going to get cleaned out to make some of these other big boys whole. Because let me tell you something. Detroit sold a lot of bonds, and they didn't sell them only to the Detroit pension system. They sold them all over the place.
Right.
But watch who takes the hit. Watch who gets left holding the bag. And when that unfolds, that will give you the answer. That'll be the recipe. That's the bail-in. It's a different flavor, but that's what it is. It's basically the rehypothecating, the repossession of your assets to cover somebody else's mistakes.
And what's interesting is that the average quantity of assets per individual in the United States has been dramatically reduced in the past 20 years. Dramatically. So we don't have much left as individuals, and whatever is left is not even ours. How accurate is that statement?
Very accurate. Most of what we have today, let me tell you something that drives me crazy. Now, you guys are talking the first half hour about what drives you nuts. The thing that drives me the most nuts is when these quislings get on TV, the radio, whatever, and they say, America is the richest country on earth. We are the poorest.
That's right.
Potentially. We're a lot closer to being the poorest than we are to being the richest. The fact that we can go out and borrow a bunch of money and buy a bunch of stuff that we don't need and can't afford does not make us rich.
Right.
That's a totally accurate statement.
Yeah, if they were basing that on future, if they were loaning us money on our prospects of the future, they wouldn't be loaning us the money.
Well,
they
just
only
like
loaning money to us because of our past.
Just like if in the 1930s, a person lived in an apartment, counted every penny they had, made sure they had no debts, and they looked poor. And they looked poor. They had old clothing. They recycled everything. Today, they ride around in a Porsche SUV, etc., and that person looks rich. But see, our entire economy is a camouflage. It looks like we're rich, and we're not. By the way, we have 2 minutes to go, Andy, and I want to make one comment. I want to give you some time so you can tell our listeners who you are and how they can reach you. A game changer for me was my sister. My sister is married a guy, owns an insurance company, very wealthy, part of the 2%ers, okay? Very wealthy, okay? I was speaking to her over Christmas time. Guess what she's doing? She says things aren't good. She says we're preparing. She's stocking up food, water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is unlike her. I mean, if I would have mentioned this 5 years ago, she says, oh, my little brother, he's not too smart, And she sounded like me, shocked the hell out of me. That was a game changer for me. Andy, please, we only got about a minute and a half to go. Would you please tell everyone how they can reach you and your services that you provide, please?
Well, I would just say people should go to the website. It's www.sutton-associates.net. That's the best way to find me. There's a phone number on there. You can contact me through the contact page. And feel free to call me. And I tell people this. You might just want to chew the fat about this stuff, and I don't mind doing that because, frankly, it's a blow off for me too. It helps me to relieve the pressure a little bit too.
Folks, he means that.
All the articles that I write are there. All the podcasts, all the appearances with Joe are on there. You can listen to that stuff, and you can read, and you can find out, what's going on. I don't have all the answers, obviously. I think I have a few. I think I have some ideas. So you can decide, and that's what I try to tell people to do.
All right, Andy, thank you so much for joining us today. Happy New Year, and we'll be talking to you again.
Happy New Year, you guys. Take it easy.
Happy New Year.
All right. Good night.
We have someone online, but we can't take him because we ran out of time. Sorry, caller. Folks, this is the end of today's broadcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors for their financial support, and we'd like to thank you for listening in. You can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends, and let us hear from you. Our email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. Remember, you are either allowing your liberties to be taken away or you're striving to protect them. Unfortunately, there is no middle ground. Until next time, this is Joe Cristiano. You're listening to Liberty Talk Radio. Stay well, stay tuned.